And obviously, before you make the flare, you need to put the nut on. Now we've got the rear two brakes fitted to there. So what I would recommend, especially if you've got a left-hand drive Fiesta like mine and you're doing this conversion on it, I would recommend the ABS model because it's got a long pin.
Your head is full of dreams. Tears are a proof of failure. You just gotta let them flow without judge. There's so many ways to be happy. You can do whatever you like. You don't have to be ready. You just gotta trust.
Hi there guys, welcome to another episode. We're going to carry on underneath Alice now. In one of the previous videos you saw me fitting the fuel lines, the catch tank, the pumps and the filter. So while we're under here and running copper pipes underneath the car, I want to run the brake pipes along the bottom of the car. I'll also show you how I flare the pipes so that they all fit together as a nice system and it keeps the system nice and safe and secure. We're going to bend some pipes as well, so I'll show you how I've gone about doing that. And then we'll fit the pipes underneath the bottom of the car, into the master cylinder, and then out to each of the wheels. And eventually, hopefully in this video, we're going to start to bleed some brakes. Originally, you would have had a brake line from the left and a brake line from the right, and then the feed to the carburetor come from the tank. Now, I need to run, still need to run a brake from the right and a brake from the left, and a feed to the engine, but I also need a feed back again. So the original clamps are too small. So I've managed to get hold of these ones that I'm quite happy with actually. They go along the car. I've got 3 of them at the moment in place. And these are what they look like when they're not fitted to the car. So they've got 2 smaller holes there and there for the brake pipes. Then they've got 2 slightly bigger ones here that I'm running return and, feed and returning that for the fuel. It just clips up there. I've drilled a 6.5mm hole and that clips straight through the hole there. What I'm going to do with probably a couple of them, I bought a 10 pack from eBay, I'll put a link below, but a couple of them I'll probably cut off this little lug here and use them as spacers for the pipes, just to keep them nice and neat and straight. So a couple of them I'll probably get rid of these. I'm only using about 4 probably under the car, and then there'll be a couple of these used as spacers as well. So I'm quite happy with these. They're quite nicely made. They fit really well in the holes that I've drilled. So let's put some pipes in there now. So these are 3/8 copper pipes. I've got both of them. I've marked them up with a left and a right, so I know which side they are. So this is the rear of the car, and these ones will then come along the bottom of the chassis all the way to the front of the car and eventually to the master cylinder. Now as you can see, there's no nipples on the end of there or on the end of there, so I've got that to do now. So it's actually fairly easy to bend. A lot of this I've done by hand. I've not even really bothered by trying to bend it with a machine or anything like that. All I did really with this end here, because it's a bit special where it goes over the back axle and stuff, is I used the original pipes and I put a couple of cable ties on there, and then there, and there, and there, and there, and there, just to keep it in place while I bent it around that weird little shape there. Then after that, it's pretty straight where it goes into that bend there. It's fairly easy to bend, and then along here, and the rest of this is to go up along the bulkhead and eventually into the master cylinder. So most of this is fairly easy to bend by hand. So yeah, I was quite surprised at just how easy it does bend. So I'm going to go over to the bench now. We'll get the tool out and set up, and I'll show you how to flare the ends of these pipes. So if you've come this far in the video, I'd just like to ask you a bit of a favour, and that is to press that subscribe button. It really does help the channel. So what I'm using here is a double flaring brake tool, and this is what they look like. There are at least 2 different models that you can use. This tool is quite a lot more expensive than the other tool. I do have the other tool. I have tried it. I don't like it. So I have been and bought this tool as well. Like I say, it's quite a lot more expensive, but it does so much better job than the others. The only The only downside to this tool is that you need to put it in a vise to use it, whereas the other one can be used on the car. But I would still recommend getting this. So we need to set this tool up now then. So that part gets put in the vise like that, and we've got a handle, and the handle goes in there till it clicks. We've also got the screw here that clamps down on the dies, so we pull that out and then we can open that to one side. In the kit you've got loads of different pipes for different sizes. This one is for 3/8, this is for 5/16, that's a 1/4 inch pipe, but this one is the 3/16, and that's the one we're going to use. Now when you take this out, so you can see on this that is a square end and that is a 45-degree end, and it says it's a 3/16. So when we put these two together, we want to make sure that we put both the square ends together and both the 45-degree ends together. And for pretty much all the European pipes, we're going to use the 45-degree end. So that now goes up into the tool like that, and I'm using, like I say, the 45-degree end pointing forward. So that goes in, and it goes all the way to the back. The other part of this tool is this rotating head here, and it will rotate to all different parts. It's marked here with OP0, OP1, 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 and then we've got OP2, OP1, OP1, and OP2 again. As you can see, the different sizes: 4.75, 3/16, 1/4 inch. Now OP0, as we can see here, the OP means operation, and as you can see, OP0 is completely flat. Now for the video, I'm going to be using this piece of pipe. Now we don't need to worry too much about this pipe. As you can see, it's not straight, but we don't have to worry about that too much. We need to make sure it goes all the way to the end there, and then we can put the second die on top. Once that's in place, we can fold over the clamp, lock the clamp in place, and then we can tighten that down. And what you'll see is, as I tighten it down, you'll see the pipe straighten itself up. I would release it off again just to make sure we can use it. Now we're on operation 0 here, and basically all that means is we pull the handle and it feeds the pipe nice and level with the die. It also pushes the dies into the bottom, so they're all at the bottom there, and then we clamp everything down. So now we're ready to make our first flare. In most European countries, we're going to be using a double flare on the pipe. So we need to find our 3/16 pipe and operation 1. So we turn around to operation 1. So once we're at operation 1, we can pull the handle, and we just pull the handle until we can feel it stop, and that's the stop, and then we let go of it again. So that is what operation 1 looks like. So that is operation 1. So now we need to do the double flare on it, and then we're going to use operation 2, and this one we can use either 1/4 inch, 4.75 or 3/16. They're all exactly the same. So we turn that round to operation 2, and this one won't move quite as far as the previous one, so that's where it stops. And that is it. So that is our double flared pipe. It's got a 45-degree angle at the back, and it's also got a 45-degree on the inside. And obviously, before you make the flare, you need to put the nut on. I'm hoping you can see it on camera, but the inside of that nut there is a 45-degree angle. We've also flared a 45-degree angle on there. When the nut and the flare come together, there's a nice 45-degree joint on the inside of there.
Right, so that's both of the front done. The Mondeo one that I'm using, the non-ABS master cylinder, uses M12 by 1mm nuts for the secondary joints. So now all I need to do is get these pipes clipped back on underneath the car.
Right, so I've already bent these before, so they were pre-bent, so it just meant me clipping them back together again. I've used the original clips where I can, under here. That clip's a little bit broken, so it does pop out there, so I'll replace that clip with something else. And then it goes across there and into there.
Now we've got the rear two brakes fitted to there, and I've got the nut ready for the front brakes. So I just now need to make up some brake pipes for the front end. All the brake lines are in place now then, and the system is completely bled. Once I did that, I wasn't really happy with the mounting of the servo, and mainly the reason was because I got the servo nice and level here, but that meant that the tank here was leaning forward, which isn't probably a problem, to be quite honest, but it meant that I got quite a lot of fluid here and not a lot there. So if I were to lose fluid for some reason, then there's a risk that the rear section of it would be without fluid. So I just wanted to level it up really. So I took the bracket away and I'm making a new bracket for it now. So the bracket was originally mounted with this one, which is the original bracket from the Fiesta, but because the Mondeo servo is wider, I had to make a bracket that fitted on. I've started making a new one. That is how the new bracket will go. So fitted to the firewall here, it then leans the servo, which then makes the reservoir level on the other side of it. The problem I might get, and I think I probably will get now, is that I cut this bar here coming out of the servo, and I welded it back on again the same length as the original servo. Well, now I'm pulling this out quite a bit, so I may have to redo this piece of metal here, but that's not a huge problem. It'll just be chop it off there, extend it, and then re-weld it back again. So that is it all in place now. The nice shiny powder coated bracket across the back there. The servo is now leaning slightly backwards, but the reservoir is completely level. But I have just realised something that I hadn't thought of before, and it's quite a bit of a difference, to be honest. Mine's a left-hand drive. Now the difference with a left-hand drive and a right-hand drive is that the right-hand drives have got the pedals over there, and you have a bar coming across here to about there, and then there's a little tab that the servo attaches to. Well, mine doesn't have that. So my servo is mounted here, and the bar goes straight out and it goes straight down to the pedal. I thought that that was going to be quite a good thing. It was really easy just to go straight from there to the pedal. Nice simple bar, job done. Turns out I've just realised that was wrong. So the difference is that this bar here is now too short, and I'd like to get it to go up to the hole in the pedal, but as you can see, the hole is way up there, so it doesn't actually make it to the hole anymore. What I'm going to have to do now is to bring that there. I'm going to extend the bar here. I'm going to cut off this bracket on the end here, extend that bar so that the little U, this plate thing here, goes through the pedal further down, because I can't obviously put a kink in that bar so that it reaches up to the correct hole. So that's something I'd never even thought about before, until now that I've tried to adjust the bracket, and my brake servo doesn't reach the pedal anymore. Well, it wasn't easy to get to the pedal, so I took the pedal box out, And as you can see, that's the old hole there. Now this plate was just welded, spot welded into place, so I could drill the welds out and then just move it down to where I'd marked it up. All I did was put a piece of masking tape across here, and then I could measure where the pin came out and where the fork was supposed to go. And that gave me the place for the new hole. So now there's a hole going through that pedal, ready for the fork to fit through it. So after some measurements, I found out that that pin is now 45mm too short. So I need to extend that. So I just made a little adapter that is now 45mm longer, slightly bigger, but that gives me room down here to weld it. So all I need to do now is weld on the fork of there onto the end, and that will be one complete shaft again. So if you're doing this on a left-hand drive Fiesta, I would recommend an ABS servo and a non-ABS master cylinder, because you're going to have to cut it down and you're going to have to adapt it anyway. So that's something I've learned, and I'm hoping I can pass that tip on to anybody else who's doing this in a left-hand drive country. Right, so now that's all back together again. I've got a few more bits I just want to bolt up, and then I'm going to take this for a test drive. I know I've been promising it for ages, but now I've got the brakes sorted, I think it's test drive time. So join me in the next video for test driving. If you like what you've seen, press the subscribe button. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot, and bye-bye.